So I did a great chat with Coach Noah Ravoy last night. It's up on his channel, Noah Ravoy and SMV4K, I think is his channel, which means Sexual Market Value 4K Selected People. But I'll post it on my channel as well. But once again, we're talking about male leadership, and it's just one of these topics that could go on and on and on because it spins off in a million different directions. So I just wanted to add a little postscript here. One thing I did want to mention that I didn't get time to, and I've mentioned it before on this channel, but I honestly believe it is extremely important, so I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it again in the future, because once again I think it is a really important point. When we start to look at people who are more feminine brained, and look, when we talk about this whole distribution of male and female, like, you just short form it and say men and women, because 90% of the people, well, I think this percentage is probably being blurred because of social malincentives in allocation of status in the modern world. But in the clown world, allocations of status. But look, under normal conditions, 95% of people are very clearly male and female. They act very clearly male and female. But you've got, a third of the people are on the male end, and they're very heavily skewed towards male instincts and thinking. Then you've got a third of the people in the middle who are, fairly balanced, a bit of both. And then a third of people are, very, very feminine in their thinking as well. And that will be obviously mostly women, but there will be some men. There are some feminine men as well that think. And, I think we are very adaptable. We are very adaptable. And even though we do have natural dispositions, we can train one way or the other, and sometimes we just have no experience of how to cultivate a healthy masculine as well. And so a lot of men who probably default to very feminine ways of thinking don't know any better, and they are almost always not as effective as they could be, and often very ineffective and very depressed. And so once again, they're in an evolutionary mismatch. So I would say, even though you can look at a lot of men in the feminine spectrum and say, well, yeah, they're feminine, but that may not be their natural disposition. They may be acting from an upbringing of trauma and lack of male role models to copy, and they're not happy about it. So they may be acting feminine, but they're not happy about it. So I would still say it's skewing their natural disposition. They're in an evolutionary mismatch. Anyway, the point being that we short form it to men and women, or masculine and feminine, but people are a spectrum, and we each have these in ourselves as well. But the idea that social proof and social construction is more heavily relied on as you go further down the spectrum into the feminine thinking, into the more empathetic and the more system-blind thinking, yet social construction and social proof becomes, they rely on those a lot more heavily. They rely on social proof and social construction a lot more heavily. And so, once again, there is a tragedy in the nature of this, but also an opportunity. So what I want to say is, compliment your bros. Compliment your bros consciously and deliberately in front of their women, or in front of women that they like, or other women. It is very, very powerful, because we're talking about male leadership, and one of the first points of call in male leadership is the ability to lead a family. That is a unit of society, and so having value in the eyes of a woman and fulfilling, the masculine role of leadership within the family, that is also a very, very important part. It's just as important, because it's the building block of larger scales of leadership. And you can create that network, that sovereign network of men, by each helping him lead his perspective domain, his perspective woman or family, and you can raise his value in the eyes of his woman by complimenting him. Often it doesn't even need to be true. It just needs to be a perception, because the feminine exists in perception anyway. That's what I mean. Their reality is socially constructed. Not as an absolute. I'm not saying they're not. They are absolutely impervious to inputs from the physical or real world. I'm not saying that at all. But they're more socially constructed than the masculine. They rely on social construction and social signaling and social proof, that sort of thing, to make their decisions. And so deliberately, what I want to implore you to do is deliberately and consciously construct some social proof for your bros in front of women. It's honestly magic. The main problem is that men are we're too sovereign. We're not sovereign. We're too caught up in what we're doing to care. Men throw other men under the bus, and so we're too caught up in chasing our own dominance expressions and that sort of thing to really go, hang on, I need to work in a network of other men to be strong. The herd, the feminine herd, undermines alphas. That's how that strategy evolved. The herd gets together to undermine the strong, and it works. It works, and it's not necessarily a moral thing either. It's not immoral to do so. It's just a strategy that they evolved, and it works. It works really well. And so sometimes you need to dial down the individual alpha characteristic that you've got going on and work on a team. You see incredibly beautiful women flock to teams. They flock to sports teams, creative teams. Wherever you have teams of high achieving men, they love teams, especially something like a football team, because the hierarchy is already there. The team itself has high status, but then they can see very clearly within that team what the hierarchy is. And so that's what women want to do. They want to sit back, watch all the men, and then they want to choose which man they want. And they'll judge a whole range of things, but very importantly, they'll judge his status and all that sort of stuff too. So you can game that mechanism reciprocally with your bros if you start laying praise onto your friends. But the thing is, they should do it to you too. That's definitely got to be a reciprocal strategy. Because in the past I've done it, but the guys I've done it for, and it worked really well with their partners. Like I said, it's absolutely magic. Like I've got a guy who's divorced now, but I said to his wife at the time, everybody loves him. He's so good at what he does. He has so much respect in his industry. People rave about him. Like, you're a very lucky woman. And I said that to another guy who's still with his fiance. But in both cases, both men, and once again, like they might have been having a fight or just an issue that was unresolved, and it became a battle. It's not about the status. Sorry, it's not about the issue. It's just. Can she get her way? It's just a status battle and a test, that sort of thing. And so I weighted the conflict in terms of my friends by bestowing status upon them when they weren't there, and creating not the illusion, because it is true, but creating a one-man illusion of social proof. Everybody says this, that kind of thing. Everybody loves this guy. And so, but unfortunately, in both cases, those friends of mine were too caught up in their own crap and too selfish at the time to realize what I was doing, and they couldn't reciprocate that. So that's okay. But you have to reciprocate that. Sometimes you will be stronger in a team of men than on your own. And so you need to put your ego aside. But yeah, once again, I implore you, if you have a mate with a wife, it doesn't even matter if there's no drama at the moment. If they're not in a conflict at all, you will just make her happier by implying that he has high status among other people and that they talk about him in very favorable terms, and everybody says that she's very, very lucky. She'll feel like she's getting a great deal. And it's ideal if you don't have to lie to do that, but if you have to, you still can. It doesn't have to be technically true. It's all perception, and don't get caught up on the details. Just talk about the feeling of how great that guy is and how lucky she is to have him. It is very, very powerful. It will give, if you do that reciprocally among your mates, you will have more social power with the women in your lives. It will help you lead, it will help you have respect, and it will help you have power on the first level of power, which is in a relationship with a woman and having a family. And once again, the lesson as well is that can be scaled out to larger scales in society as well. You see everything on the news is all social construction. Everything in politics is all social construction. They're always, trying to construct the illusion of social proof around things. Social proof, I guess you'd say. Anyway, I just want to say that too as a postscript to the chat with Noah. Compliment your bros. It is very powerful. Do it now.